My kids roll their eyes and say, "Mom, keto can't be the answer for everything." It often seems miraculous how many things keto can heal. But if you don't do keto right, you can be hurting yourself. The first problem I see is when patients are fasting too often and too soon when their metabolism isn't primed. My dad used to call this ass over apricot. And these people jump all in, but their bodies aren't ready for it. The reason that fasting is so good for your metabolism is that it's a healthy stress to kickstart your body's autophagy. Autophagy means to eat thyself, where the body does a cleanup job when the environment is right to repair. This is our goal. But the danger is when you don't spark autophagy and you actually trigger a starvation mode. Many folks want that outcome, but they jump in too soon without those hormones primed, and then they are like a tumbleweed down a hill and they crash and burn. So what's the harm? Well, apart from the fact that this leads to burnout, the goal is to stress the body. But if you aren't fully fat adapted, you will flood the system with cortisol. This disrupts that HPA axis, or the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Those adrenals are where the steroid hormones come from and are supposed to help encourage the sex drive and the thyroid to function correctly. With this off in the stress mode, you're not getting to autophagy. So how do you know if you're pushing it too hard? Well, first of all, those patients are hungry. In fact, they're starving and the weight is not moving. Because they haven't activated these hormones, they're actually targeting their muscles as the energy source for weight loss. So it's the wrong kind of weight loss. The next big sign is they have hair loss. Now, don't get me wrong, anybody starting the ketogenic diet can have a time of hair loss. This is a result of the stress of that change in diet. But this hair loss is more persistent. Their hair gets thinner and it never grows back because, you need these hormones in order to do that. When you disrupt that hair follicle, you get the loss of hair that persists, as well as dry skin and brittle nails, all from the same cause. This leads to not eating enough fat. Fat first is critical, especially if you're early in the ketogenic diet. The root cause of these problems was the excessive insulin. By eating enough fat, you are lowering the insulin in your body, at least better than it was in the last chapter. Inadequate fat intake with a low-carb diet will mess up your hormones. Keto is high fat for a reason. It is fat first. And you need to eat that high fat in order to supply the fuel for making these fat-based hormones. Training your cells to burn fat and make ketones is part of this equation. As you train your body to burn fat and make ketones, you also improve several other things. This sends out a signal for your body to not use muscle as the source of fuel. Those circulating ketones also promote the anti-inflammatory effect, as well as continue the circulation and supply of those fat-based hormones. All of this is the trifecta for how the ketogenic diet is able to reverse these medical problems. If you skip this step about the high fat, there are much more serious consequences than losing your hair or having chipped nails. These problems of missing fat-based hormones lead to a brain that doesn't work. These are symptoms like the patient's mood is very irritable, the depression is severe and just doesn't seem to come out of the ditch no matter what we do. The high cortisol and low serotonin from extended fasting and the lack of fat-based hormones is the root cause, but the patient cannot exit these symptoms until we fix that. Another major sign is their low libido. Remember, sex drive is not in your sex organs, it's in your brain. And when your brain is healthy, only then does your sex drive return to normal. But the most crippling symptom of doing keto wrong is chronic fatigue. That exhausted patient has excessive cortisol and a dysfunctional thyroid that no medication is going to fix. We must fix how they eat in order to repair that. And boy, it can take a long time, which leads me to the final problem I see: over-reliance on processed food. Just because it says the word keto does not mean it's good for you. So what makes a food processed? Well, technically, cutting a food makes it processed. But I like patients to look at what is the particle size of the food you're eating. Most keto snacks and shakes are filled with these fine powders, filled with fiber. And they teach you to play this net fiber game. Do not do that. You are only sabotaging the progress of reversing the insulin resistance. The first sign that you know this is happening to you is you are not making ketones anymore. You are not on the ketogenic diet if you are not making ketones. But the second sign is that your gut is not acting right. Poor gut health affects that gut-brain axis. And that alone will disrupt the hormones. But then you add those artificial sweeteners and we have a soupy mess for your endocrine system to not work right. So what do patients look like when they struggle with this? Well, yeah, they have gut problems. They have constipation or diarrhea. And the hormones that are supposed to be regulating the movement of your food through your gut are linked to which kind of bacteria are living in your gut. That keto processed food sprinkled all over the gut bacteria and disrupted things. Now the endocrine system doesn't work and hormones like the serotonin found in your gut are now at a loss. And your brain will feel it. And when your brain is foggy or the memory just doesn't seem to be sharp, I'm gonna first start by blaming your gut. You see, the hormones that signal your brain are built from fat, and they depend on the right bacteria inside your gut to be activated and to circulate in their proper form. One of the best signals that their gut biome is messed up is actually what happens at night. Their sleep is very disturbed, and it leaves no time for their brain to repair during the deepest hours of sleep. All of this leads to dysfunction. If you're like many of the people that write in saying, "Doc, I just can't seem to make ketones," I've got the experiment for you. Check out the time where I ate butter. It's fantastic. I'll see you there.